If your computer's ever lost or stolen, the first question somebody's going to ask you is, was your disk encrypted? And almost every security standard today requires disk encryption on every hard disk. In Windows 10, most versions have disk encryption. Every version except for Windows 10 Home has this by default. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at where disk encryption is and how you turn it on, and more importantly, how you protect yourself just in case something goes wrong with your computer. So we're going to click on Start, and we're going to go to Settings. And disk encryption in Windows is called Bitlocker. So there are a couple ways that you can find it. The easiest way is just to type Bitlocker. And you're going to see that as I type Bitlocker, device encryption settings and manage Bitlocker show up. At the same time, if I just remembered the word encryption, I can start typing it. And you'll see that it does the exact same thing. So we're going to go ahead and go to our device encryption settings. And you'll note I've already got disk encryption turned on my machine. But if I did not have disk encryption turned on, then I would just click this button, which would be turn on, and it would turn on disk encryption. It would encrypt my drive. And what that means is if my device is stolen and somebody were to take the hard drive out and put it into another computer, they still could not read that drive. So it adds a level of protection to your password so that if somebody tried to get physical access to your data, it would be encrypted and they wouldn't be able to read it. At the same time, you have to remember that computers do break. Sometimes you have hardware failures. When that happens, I hope you have a backup, because that's the best way to ensure that your data is safe, and the easiest access to get to it is to have a cloud backup or just have your files in a cloud-based system. But if you don't, you're going to need to decrypt that drive and use another machine to get that data off. And if you don't have the Bitlocker key or the encryption key, you won't be able to decrypt that drive. So how do we go about getting that Bitlocker key? Before the system fails, and this is key, before the system fails, you want to go over here to where it says Bitlocker Settings, and you're going to click on that, and it's going to bring up this box, and then you're going to back up your recovery key. So we're going to click on Back Up Your Recovery Key, and it's going to open up this box. It's going to give you options on how you can back it up. Now you can back this up to a cloud domain account, you can back it up to a file, or you can print it. What I recommend is that you print this key. And the reason I recommend that you print the key is because that separates this asset from your digital assets. So if this is on paper and your data is on a disk, then you're in good shape. Print the key off, put it in your file so that you can access it, bring it back, and then when you have to recover the data off that disk, that you can. Now, if you save it to a file, it's important that you save it to a file that is not on this computer, because if the disk were to fail, you would not be able to access that at all. So again, what we want to do is make sure our disk encryption is turned on. Once disk encryption is turned on, we want to click on Bitlocker Settings, and we want to back up the recovery key. And I recommend that you print it. Portable drives are convenient. You might use them to move information between two computers, perhaps work and home. You might use them to give clients information. But they're also security threats, so much so that many companies disable the use of portable drives or USB drives throughout the entire organization. If you're still using USB drives, what you can consider doing is making them more secure. And the way that we do that is we encrypt them. So I'm going to go ahead and walk through the steps that I take to encrypt a portable drive so that you can do that if it's something that you think that you would want to do. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on Start, and I'm just going to type in File, and that's going to bring me to File Explorer. I'm going to click on that. And what I see now is my normal File Explorer with all my folders and files and all of that. But what we're going to do is we're going to go down here, and you'll see that I've got a brand new USB key right here. Nothing on it. Now you could have information on it. This would work with it. It just takes a little bit longer if you have information on there. So the first thing that I do is I right click on this, and I'm going to go to Rename. And there's a reason I do this, and I'll explain that in 1 second. And I've named this drive Secure 01. So we have secure 01. And the reason I'm doing this is so that I know what the drive is, so that I can match the password up with it later. So now that I've named the drive, I'm going to right click that and I'm going to turn Bitlocker on. And Bitlocker is going to start and it's going to initialize. Now it's done. Depending on the size of your drive, that can take 30-40 seconds. It just depends on how big the drive is. Smaller drives, of course, are going to run faster. But what we end up with is a nice box here that says, how do you want to unlock the drive? And what we're going to do is we're just going to use a password on this. And you have to type it twice to make sure that it matches. So we've gone and typed that in twice. And we're going to hit next, which is going to bring us to some options. The first option is, how do you want to back up your recovery key? When you're encrypting a drive, you always have a recovery key, and that recovery key is so that you can unencrypt it if you lose the password, if something gets damaged. So again, what I do is I always print these keys. And the reason that I named the drive Secure 01 is I might have 10 of these drives. When I print this recovery key, I'm going to print it and I'm going to put it in my paper file system. But what I'm going to do after I print it is on that piece of paper that it prints, I'm going to write Secure 01 so that I know that that key goes with that specific USB key. So I'm making a match. I put the paper in my file cabinet. The drive goes with me. It's a digital copy. That way, I always have the recovery key, but it's not stored someplace digitally where someone might be able to get to it. So if I, for example, share this key with a client, I would name it the client. I would put the recovery key in my desk. If the client forgot what the password to the key was when they called me, I would be able to recover that data and assign it a new password. And that's the reason you always want to have that recovery key. So we printed our recovery key. We write the name of the USB key on the piece of paper and put it in our filing system. Then we hit next. Now the next thing you're going to get to choose is encrypt use space on the drive or encrypt the entire drive. This is a brand new drive. I'm going to go ahead and encrypt the use space only. There is none. That's just going to be faster. If you encrypt the entire drive, it's going to take more time. But just remember, as we put things onto the drive, it will encrypt the data that we put on. So that's why I'm creating a new secure key here. So encrypt the use space only, next. And then you can choose what version of encryption you want. New encryption mode, best for fixed drives on this device. Well, I want to be able to use this on several different devices. So I'm going to ensure that I use compatible mode. This drive is going to move from machine to machine. So we hit next again. And it says, are you ready? We're just going to go ahead and start encrypting that. And this is going to take a little bit of time because it's got to go through and entirely encrypt the drive. It's going to pull up and it's going to show you where it's going. Now, you can continue working on other things as this runs. It's not like it's completely locking the system. I can go do other things. I don't have to watch these numbers count up. So we're not going to watch them count up in the video. We're going to go ahead and come back to this when it's completed. So the drive has completed its encryption. You can see that it says the drive is completely complete. We're just going to go ahead and close that out. When we move around, we're going to go from one drive to another. You'll see the drive works exactly how you would expect it to work. We'll go ahead and unplug the drive so that the drive is not there anymore. We plug the drive back in. And now when we go to File Explorer, we notice that this USB drive E has a lock on it. So when we unlock the drive, what we get is this enter password to unlock the drive. So we need to put the password in here and unlock. And now what we see from all of this is that this drive is now unlocked, and I can see the name of it, Secure 01. So this is my drive. I've written 01 on the drive itself, so I have it matching with the paper that is in my file system. I can unlock that drive, use the drive as I normally would. When I unplug it, it locks back up. If I put it into another machine, I have to unlock it again using the password.